Good afternoon. My name is Conor and I'm Head of Innovation at Leveris. I'm here today to talk to you not only about the Leveris core banking and lending platform, but also the huge problem in global core banking that the Leveris platform is trying to address. When we talk about core banking, what we're referring to is the central immutable system of record that sits at the center of a bank's technological infrastructure. It's the very heart of the system that everything inside the bank depends on. You would think for a system that had such existential significance to a bank that it would be designed using the most cutting-edge technologies and the most precise modern architectural principles. But in fact, the reality is quite the opposite. Every single one of you here today have a bank account, and every single one of you here today have a banking app. Yet when you look at the service and the experience that you get through that app and compare to the service and experience you get through other apps outside of the financial sphere, they compare very, very badly. And many people are confused by that. But to begin to understand why that discrepancy is so large, you need to have an understanding of what the legacy technology inside a modern tier one bank looks like. And essentially what it is a mishmash of hundreds and thousands of individual subsystems that have been brought together and interconnected over the years from when the system was first put in place, probably in the 70s or the 80s. And when you see the huge complexity of this, and bear in mind this is a very simplified depiction of it, the reality is it's probably 2 or 3 orders of magnitude more complex than this. You begin to understand why banks struggle with both the UX experience on the front end and their fundamental economics on the back end. You see, most people say that banks are failing customers, but from our perspective, it's actually the technology that's failing the banks. And the reason we say that is that because when we look at the numbers of the approximate 35,000 global retail banks in the world, it's estimated that 80% of them are currently evaluating and looking at some sort of a solution to their core banking issue. But then, of those that are actually looking at it, only a very small percentage, about 0.05%, actually act on that and choose one of the options to transform their core banking and address the massive issue that they have. So why is that? Why is there such a huge discrepancy with the amount of organizations that are looking at the problem and the amount of organizations that actually do something about it? Why do so many of them choose inertia, do nothing, kick the can down the road and leave it for the next set of CEOs, CIOs or CTOs? And the reason for that is because the options open to them are so poor. The first option is something akin to cosmetic surgery. It is, addressing something in the short term, but doing nothing to address the more fundamental issue that's coming down the line. From a technological perspective, is generally some sort of middleware solution which tidies up the mid-tier, giving a slightly better user experience in the front end, but doing nothing to address the more fundamental problems on the back end. The other option typically open to a bank to continue the sort of medical analogy is some sort of a heart transplant, where you take your massive, lumbering, archaic system and all its interconnected subsystems. You do a massive, lengthy and expensive data mapping onto a new, equally expensive, slightly upgraded legacy system. Now, all that in theory sounds pretty good, but in reality what happens is it takes about 5 years of your life away. It costs about €1 billion, and only about 33% of these are successful. So when you're faced with these options, one that's exceptionally expensive and risky and probably won't work, and something that just kicks the can down the road, it's no wonder that people actually choose the inertia. What Leveris give you though is something more akin to gene therapy, and something that actually metamorphosizes your entire infrastructure from a technology perspective and completely transforms both your capabilities and your underlying economics on the back end. We do this by bringing the principles of modern service-oriented N-tier architecture to bear on financial services, an architecture that is used in every other industry in the world bar financial services. And what that means is that at the center of our world we have our general ledger, our accounting engine, where all the transactions and accounts are stored. And into that plugs every other service and subsystem through a standardized set of APIs, which means that no matter how many other services are pinned onto our core, how many customers the bank puts on there, the simplicity of the architecture persists. And when that happens, you get a multitude of benefits. You dramatically lower your cost and your cost-to-income ratios. You have the single view of customer, which permeates the entire stack and gives you all the operational efficiencies like marketing and customer support that brings. You get to deploy beautiful UX, but even more crucially, you get to reduce your innovation cycle so that new products and services can be conceived of, designed, and deployed in a matter of weeks and not months. In terms of the encroachment of fintech, because we're architected in an open architecture, you can actually form alliances with third-party fintechs and bring their innovative services inside of your four walls and offer them alongside your native services. And then the last point, and possibly the most crucial as we go forward, is that we have baked in data capabilities at the most fundamental layer of our architecture to allow banks to monetize data as they move forward within the constraints of the creator economy. That's pretty much who Leveris are and our product and the thing we're addressing. We're a team of about 150, mainly core back-end engineers. Our headquarters are in Dublin, and our main development centers are in Prague and Minsk. If there are any potential partners, customers, or investors out there, we'd love to speak to you afterwards. Thank you.